well, thank you very much. I'm not going to make this too long. Rather listen to our guest speaker, Mr. Thomas Earle, an attorney from Philadelphia. He is the CEO of Liberty Resources, which is an independent living center similar to Access to Independence. Now, Mr. Earle is going to speak about his long history of advocacy for the civil rights of people with disabilities. And it's really been an essential and awesome experience that he's going to share with us. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today. And here you go.
Thank you very much, Chad. My name's Tom Earle. I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I am currently the CEO of Liberty Resources, which is a center for independent living that serves the Philadelphia County area, similar to what Access to Independence does here in the Cortland area. It's an honor to be here today. I want to especially thank Mary Ewing, your executive director, and Fran Pizzola, who helped organize my travel and invited me to this event. And also thank Chad Underwood for his support. My involvement with the disability rights movement has lasted over 20 years now. I'm a lot older than I look, and I feel a lot older than when I started, and tired.
On the same age.
Yeah, I turned 50 in January, and in 1988 I started going to law school at Rutgers Law School in New Jersey, and graduated in 1991. At that time, I had already been diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, my vision loss, which is a progressive form of vision loss similar to what Earle has here at your center. It's been a long struggle, but I have persevered, and am a strong believer that people with disabilities can do anything they set out to do. I graduated in 1991. And after a brief year with a very aggressive law firm that focused on environmental law, I switched my legal career to the nonprofit law firm called the Disabilities Law Project. And I was hired specifically to do federal litigation under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that's what I did for the next 11 years. And during that 11-year period, I had the privilege of working very frequently with a great civil rights lawyer named Steve Gold, who has brought a lot of great cases. We co-counsel together, and we really worked hard to enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act. The important thing, we're very fortunate to be living in the United States, where we can gather in a public place like this and not be shot by the police.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's very important as Americans and Americans with disabilities that we recognize and embrace our civil rights, which are the Americans with Disabilities rights, so that we can be active members of the community, visible members of the community, and have the same employment opportunities and other opportunities to participate in every aspect of the community. Not too long ago in our nation's history, just 3-4 decades ago, people with disabilities would rarely gather in a public place like this because many of them were warehoused in very isolated nursing facilities and state-run institutions where they were living in the shadow and forgotten by their families and friends. As our civil rights movement progressed, the ADA was passed in 1990, and it was not done easily. Some of you may have heard of Justin Dart, who was a very wealthy businessman whose family owned and operated the Tupperware company. And Justin Dart was a man with a physical disability who used a wheelchair, and it took Justin Dart a nationwide tour of every state of the United States to convince members of Congress and the Senate that the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act had to happen. And in 1990, he sat alongside then President George Bush on the White House lawn and was present to enjoy and see his hard work pay off with the president signing the ADA into law. But that in itself took a lot of pushing. Even though we have made progress, sometimes state governments and the federal government need to be pushed, and they need to be pushed hard. And that is where groups like New York Adapt, Pennsylvania Adapt, and the National Adapt folks really are effective at what they do. And I'm a proud member of Adapt. It often has resulted in accelerating the things that we need for our people to live freely in the community with the services they need. So in 1989, 1990, before the ADA was signed, ADAPT paid many visits to Washington, D.C., including one where many members from ADAPT showed up at the Supreme Court and the steps of the Capitol Rotunda and really made themselves known and crawled up the steps to demonstrate that whether it's one step or 100 steps, every step is an architectural barrier that prevents people with disabilities from participating in and going into a business, a public building, or even a movie theater, a museum, whatever it is. And that step can be 2 inches high or 6 inches high. A step is a step, and there's no reason why in 2011, as we gather here today, that the businesses of Cortland and businesses in Philadelphia, which are in buildings that are very old, cannot come up with a clever way to improve the access to their places. And for that, I think we owe a big round of applause to not just Mary, but Fran for the individual advocacy that sometimes it takes to convince business owners that their business needs to be open to all customers, not just people who walk in on 2 feet.
One more step.
And as we look forward to the continued implementation of the ADA and enforcement of our rights, it's important to remember that the community integration mandate of the ADA really requires a collective effort by all members of the community. Each community has to develop in its own way the community capacity so that as more people with disabilities live in the community, they have access to public transportation, to public places like the courthouse, the libraries, all of the local businesses, the schools, and basically every aspect of community life that many Americans take for granted. And it's important to appreciate that, because even if you're not a person with a disability today, you can become one tomorrow. As Americans live longer and longer lives, our life expectancy increases, and as you grow older, people develop arthritis, osteoporosis, many age-related disabilities that over time will have them using walkers, wheelchairs, and as our nation ages, the need for accessibility is only going to increase. And that is why the important work that Access to Independence does in its architectural barrier program is so vitally important. And it's my hope that later today that the state representatives, the mayor, members of Congress who are here today hear our message loud and clear that people with disabilities are here to stay. We want to work, we want to pay taxes, we want to have families, and we want to enjoy every aspect of the community that everybody else does. Thank you very much.